Mary, have you joined us?
Can you hear me?
Mary? I can hear you, Mary.
Oh, good, because it says listen only mode, so I wasn't sure if you could hear me.
Well, I just unmuted you, so now you can be a full participant. Thank you for joining us. We're about to get started with Vermont's presentation, and then we'll I'll switch over to you. Okay.
Okay.
So just for your information, Mary, on the phone we have a group of folks from New Hampshire. We have the folks from Vermont who are going to make us this presentation, and we have Linda Darho from EPA Region 1, and myself, Carrie, so far.
Great. Okay.
Okay, so Alex, take it away.
All right, thank you. So my name is Alex Geller. I work with the Vermont Department of Environmental Conservation, and I am part of our Business Transformation Initiative, along with Justin Kinney, who's the project manager for our lean effort, and Jean Nicolai, who's our program manager. And so we started, I don't know, about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and we've come a long way since then with the help of Leanovations and other participants. So today we're going to talk about how we've leveraged SharePoint 2013 to kind of organize our lean effort. So for this presentation, I drew a context diagram. So at the center of everything, we have a lean initiative site, and this site really serves as the landing page and the information about our lean effort, the background, so on and so forth. The who, what, where, why, and when. Underneath our parent lean site, we have our project sites. And these are based on a template. And so we're able to rapidly deploy these when new projects are chartered. Just some basic examples of this are Petroleum Cleanup Fund payment processing, which should apply to NUMOA or resonate with NUMOA. We also have other types of projects like our wetlands program, our stormwater program, and then 12 other projects that we've gone through week-long Kaizen events. So around the periphery, I'm just going to state who the different people are that use our lean SharePoint site and what their interaction with our lean site is. And so as I mentioned, myself, Justin, and Jean, we are BTI, so we're kind of running the show at the high level here. And BTI stands for Business Transformation Initiative. So we maintain the parent site. We provide updates to it, general updates about what our schedule is and what events might be going on at any one time, information like that. We also generally maintain the site, so we keep it up to date, relevant, and we'll get into that after this context diagram. I'll do a walkthrough presentation. So BTI is also, we configure and deploy and provision new lean sites as projects are chartered. And so what we try to do, which has been pretty aggressive, is we do 3 projects every quarter. So the way we've implemented lean is we take a group of people, like 8 to 12 people. We lock them in a room for a week, and we expect that they'll break down a current process and come out with a better process in the end. And so that's basically how we run things. We also have general DEC staff, department staff, and leadership are 2 other main stakeholders in this. And so largely leadership and general staff use the sites for the same reasons. So from the parent lean site, they can just learn about the effort, but also get updates. And that updates is really a 2-way street because users can subscribe to certain lists on our lean site. And so when anything is published, they receive an email automatically that there's been activity on the site. they can also go and just review them on their own. And then it also applies to the individual project sites. So leadership and general DEC staff can, again, subscribe to, specific lists on our project sites and just learn about each individual project if they're curious. And our lean project sites are really, it's how we hold our teams accountable. So we manage the implementation plans post-project or post-lean event on these project sites. So everything is on there, and that really forms the foundation for accountability and some other features as well, and we'll get into that in a bit. And lastly, and most importantly, the team members are, a major stakeholder in all of this. And so they're mainly involved with just accessing their individual project site. So again, there's 8 to 12 team members per project. And so they use their project sites to do a whole host of things, a few of which they manage all their KPIs. So, and that feeds directly into the accountability aspect that leadership is expecting. KPIs, for anybody who doesn't know, key performance indicator. It's also a document repository, so pre-event, if there's any benchmarking or baseline KPIs, it all goes into the project site, and it's it's a file directory for the team to use that belongs to them, and they all have access to. Lastly, the team members manage their project. Again, implementation plans are hosted on the lean project sites. And so, and BTI, I screwed up the order of this, but BTI also gets updates from individual team sites as well. So hopefully this isn't too confusing to people. That's the end of the context diagram. Any questions before I move on? I'll just try to raise that up. Are there any questions? No? Everybody?
I don't see any questions in the chat boxes. So
okay. Yeah.
Maybe you can just go on. I think everybody is unmuted now. So
sounds good. All right. So, this is our lean parent site, as I referred to on the context diagram. And this is Connecticut when they visited us. And one of the things that we did when Connecticut visited us is walk through our lean project site. So this is it. It's a basic welcome to anybody and everybody in our department. This is not visible to the general public, and that has to do with SharePoint licensing and all that. It costs more to leverage that type of a license. So at the basis, we want to keep people apprised of what's going on. So right here you can see the 3 new events that are scheduled for the end of this month. So we have an AmeriCorps project, groundwater reclassification project, and a licensing and certification project. And then you can even dig down deeper into the weekly schedule. So that's a day-by-day account of what's going on. And then future events from there on. And so everybody wants to know, what's our progress? So at a super high level, we have this chart is developed, or it's feeding off of our implementation plans. So the percentage here represents how much of the implementation plan has been completed for each project. And so, so each color represents a project week. So I don't remember the specific, I guess in the key it says February 2014, May 2014, et cetera, et cetera. So, back here. And this is a rolling slideshow, so people can get an idea of what it's like. We're trying to get people excited. We're trying to make this part of our culture, and so on and so forth. If you have an idea, anybody in their department can submit an idea, and it'll get reviewed, and it may very well become a lean event if it's found to be a viable project. So that's possible as well. And once an idea is submitted, the BTI team gets notification, and we go on from there. For anybody who wants to know what's going on, we have this update list. And so each of these lists is an update, what's going on. We try to put pictures. We try to make it very visual and engaging. And of course, you can subscribe to this. So if you were to click on this link, you'd provide your email. You'd specify how often you want to receive updates, so on and so forth. Some helpful links if you want to learn more information are provided to the right here. And then, of course, we have a list of active projects. So we have all of our projects listed here, a brief description of what they are, when they happened. And if you click here, this will bring you down to that team site level, that team project level. So that, in summary, is what we do with the parent site. We also, if you want to have a monthly, like a very high-level executive summary report, monthly report, we have our monthly status reports, and this is a compilation of all the projects that are currently going on at any one time. And hold on a second. So this is something that our commissioners can bring to the legislature if anybody wants to know like how we're doing. We can just hand them this document, and it's updated every single month, and so on and so forth. So it lists all of our projects, at least one visual KPI, what the goals are, where we are in the process, so on and so forth. And we try to be as honest and straightforward as possible. So we go back to the home site. We can look at any of these active projects here, which is nice. And I'll just dig into one of our individual project sites. So this is licensing and certification. This is an upcoming event at the end of this month. And so right now, we are in the pre-event stage. So we're collecting KPIs, baseline KPIs, benchmarking, so on and so forth. Every project site has a project overview. We have a section to report key performance indicators. We don't have any yet because the project hasn't started. And then this task summary is feeding off of the implementation plan. It's a neat little tool that SharePoint has. And so, you have instantaneous feedback. So, you come here and you can see that, there's some outstanding tasks that, are close to being due or have already been due. And then, what's going on next? We're supposed to gather and assemble baseline data, and that's due in 14 days. So, again, our documents. So we provide, this is a template. We deliver this site to each project team individually, and then they go from there and, feed it content, essentially. And so we provide them with a base, file directory structure. So we give them basic folders to help guide them and organize them, so on and so forth. And then we also list the team members. So what we tried to do is during the event, kind of chaotic, and being able to access, people that might not be in the room next to you, but might be in another room or finding information somewhere else in our office. It's kind of important to be able to corral everybody. So we try to collect their phone numbers and list them right here. We also list what their role in the event is. And so again, any DEC staff, any department staff can come in and view any of this information. They can't edit anything. Only team members and the BTI committee can actually edit any of this information. So we provide site editing instructions, which is pretty important because this SharePoint's still new to a lot of people. And so what we try to do is create step-by-step visual directions. And we break it out. This is what you should do before the event. It's kind of like a checklist. This is what you do during the event. And it basically is a guide on how to leverage SharePoint as a tool to work for you. And I guess I'll just finish up with the implementation plan. So this is our implementation plan, and right now we're in what's called the detailed view. And so we preload the all the sites with pre-event tasks that need to be executed. So that much of a lean event is pretty standard, right? You have to collect your baseline KPIs, you have to do your benchmarking, you have to establish your team, all this information. So we you know, when a team gets a site for the first time, all these events exist, and so you already have a checklist of things that you have to do. And we try to assign certain tasks to certain people, and so on and so forth. And what's nice about this is you know, the goal of any lean event is to create an implementation plan. And so this does all the Gantt charting for us, which is really pretty handy. So and there's no like fiddling around with, you know, making Excel try to do this kind of stuff. So that's really a nice feature, and it's logical for most people. They can see this green line represents today, and these are the tasks that we should be working on right now. So completed tasks show up as black. Uncompleted tasks show up as blue, so on and so forth. And milestones show up as a diamond. So that, in a nutshell, is how our sites, how our SharePoint implementation has been rolled out. We have future hopes that we can make it an even more rich environment. And when I say that, what we want to do is roll up information from the disparate project sites, the individual project sites, and present that information on our home site, so on our parent site. And that way, anybody that's looking So we've had a lot of difficulties trying to get to that point, and I think probably, you know, we're expecting a little too much out of SharePoint out of the box. And so what we may do in the future is purchase some third-party software that we can plug into SharePoint, off-the-shelf type stuff, to accomplish that task. And obviously, we also have intentions of, at some point, rolling this out to the public in some capacity. So, are there any questions?
Yeah, this is Linda from EPA.
Yep.
This is fabulous, terrific work. It's really amazing. I was wondering, are you working with Fred Schamberg? Is that why you're doing like 3 events at one time?
You got it. Yes, that is why, and it's very challenging. But yeah, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, we've never done that. And we're lucky if we get, you know, 2 or 3 projects done a year, so we're not nearly at the rate you guys are at. But I was just wondering how how that works. So you have a regular facilitator, and he just kind of comes and checks in?
No, so we have a team of facilitators. Actually, I'll let Justin talk about this because that's really his area of expertise.
Sure. So Fred's role is kind of as a sensei, so he comes into the events and provides guidance and meets with all the teams. The way that we've run it is that each team typically has 2 facilitators. One is a lead facilitator, one is a co-facilitator, and those facilitators are staff here that we train. And our last training was last year. We have another training coming up in September. I believe we have something like 30 to 35 people that have been trained as facilitators, and then with this next round in September, that'll be another 20 to 30. So we'll have a total of at least 50 people trained to facilitate. Now, trying to get 6 facilitators together at the same time, same week, is actually a big challenge. And our next event is coming up in 2 weeks at the end of July. And that's just poor timing because most people are out in the field. So that's been the struggle there. But the hope is that, you know, we have enough facilitators within each of our divisions that if these events come up, whether they're a week long or a day long, that we have enough bench strength to be able to handle it.
How long is your training for the facilitators?
So let's see, we're making some changes to training this September from what we've done in the past, but it's going to be about 3 days. So that first day is 2 modules. One is a half day on what is lean. The second module is a half day on what are the tools of lean. So first is kind of principles, second is tools. And then there's the next part is really just for facilitators, which is 2 days, really heavy into problem solving, value stream mapping, A3, and probably skills matrix, and then a day or a half day of actual facilitator training where we talk about communication techniques, consensus building, stages of group development, all that stuff that actually goes into facilitation. And in the past, our facilitator trainings have just focused on the tools and not necessarily how you actually manage the group. So that's the change that we're making. Because it's not just about how you run the value stream map and how it works. It's really like how do you manage the people that are in it. That's the most difficult part.
Great. Great. Well, terrific, terrific work.
Linda, this is Jean. So we're doing 9 events full week with 3 projects a year, and then we're doing some mini events, and then hopefully eventually we're going to wean ourselves off of Fred, just so you know that that's not something that we're going to do long term.
Oh, okay.
And Justin has done a great job of outlining that training curriculum, and because Fred kind of has what he does, his presentation, so we're really kind of advancing off of what Fred has provided us, just so you know.
So we're going to be doing probably a lot of other techniques aside from what Fred has in his kind of standard training. So we're going to be using some project management, like Project Management Institute tools that like work breakdown structure and some other tools that are taught to project managers, because a lot of what this is implementation, and if you don't have someone that's good at project management, that's where things can really fall through the cracks.
Yeah, that's why I'm really trying to move towards real Kaizen events where the work is done in the room, because this following up on the implementation plans is just a lot of work, and so we're kind of wrestling with that in Region 1, is how can we do more of it right in the room and not have to have all the implementation plan follow-up.
So it's a challenge in terms of the scope of the event. I mean, moving forward, and we're going to talk about kind of our strategy moving forward post, I would say, post-Fred, the post-Fred era. But my hope is that we'll dial down the number of week-long events, probably not 9, but maybe 5 or 6 per year, and use those events to focus on the projects that are like enterprise level or really, really large and complex. If we're going to have people in a room for a week, like, it needs to be worth the effort, because it's actually a lot of money when you count up all the dollars being spent on staff time.
Right.
So, 5, 6 events of that, but then a lot of time spent on what I would consider these little continuous improvement projects, which it might be a day or two that leads to a project that takes, who knows, a couple weeks to a couple months, versus, the list of projects, the 13 we have now that are in like the 1 to 2 year range, which you're right, following up on implementation plans for that long is a major challenge, and it's a lot of work. So I'd rather start focus on some projects that we can tick off like a 3 to 6 months and then move on to the next one.
Okay.
Anyways, just my thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, you guys have a great program. It looks terrific.
Yeah, this site is really impressive. I like all the visuals that you've created, and the navigation is, very logical, it seems to me. So I think we ought to try to move on to Mary if we can, so Mary can get, talk about what they're doing in New York State. Mary, are you there?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So I have a few documents, and I think I mentioned to you, Terry, I don't know how to, make it visible.
Hold on a second, Mary. I'm going to stop, let's see, how do I change presenter? I'm going to make you, I'm going to make myself back the presenter. Then I'm going to see my screen for a second, and I'm going to make you the presenter, Mary. Okay? Okay. And whatever shows up on your computer, people are going to be able to see. So if there's something you don't want them to see, then you should minimize it or get out of it.
Okay.
So now you should have something that says, for you to click on to say you're the presenter.
So it says show my screen. Click on that?
Yep. Click on that.
So can you see it now?
I can see it now. You might want to enlarge it.
Yeah.
So, yes, you're navigating. We can see your navigation now.
Okay, so, the Vermont's materials are wonderful, and, we don't have anything that's seamless going here yet. But I want to start at the higher level. The New York State Lean Office oversees, about 40 agencies that are doing Lean now, and we report to them monthly. Seems like every day, but it's monthly as far as the Executive Chamber's SharePoint site is concerned. So that's where SharePoint's being used, is at the governor's office, which is where the Lean office is for the whole state. So we have and I can't take you right to their site, but I can try to open this document, which will show you what their SharePoint, part of their SharePoint looks like. So let me scroll down here a little bit. So each agency has a table like this on the governor's SharePoint site for Lean. And basically it shows all of your projects and, the date of the project, what agency it is, the name of the project, and then it moves forward and it has your pre-Kaizen cycle time listed and the target cycle time. And then this prior means the previous month's reporting, and the current, I'm showing you May's here, so we're showing what's happening this month versus the prior month. And then in the final column, we have to tell the governor's office why it's either better or worse than it was in the previous month as far as reaching the cycle time is concerned. So their focus is really on cycle time. I try to bring other things into the picture, like what we call quality rate and other metrics that have been developed as a result of the project. So let's say we want to inspect more medium-sized concentrated animal feeding operations. That might be a target, or we might have an inspection announcement rate that we want to reach. So there are other side targets that the department, the DEC definitely has, that the governor's office isn't as concerned with. So this is the focus of their SharePoint site as far as reporting is concerned. Of course, they have There are lean resources, PowerPoints, training materials. They have like an area where you can converse with other agencies and post little mini photographs and things that are going on with your projects. That's what's going on with the statewide SharePoint site. Okay, and they basically hold the agencies accountable for meeting what you set as your target metrics and want to know why it's not working. Expect you to be doing continuous improvement, on a weekly or biweekly basis through huddles, these small, short team meetings that focus on where we're at with implementing things and where are we having problems and what are the solutions. So the Chamber wants to see all kinds of evidence of that going on. So you're building continuous improvement in your agency. Easier said than done. At DEC itself, we have a lot more detailed tracking going on. So let me just show you. This is our implementation plan, which is on Excel. Let me go up. We have a format that's used for all implementation plans for all projects. So we're always saying, so during the Kaizen, on the final day of the Kaizen event, this implementation plan is developed in detail right then and there, and then the deputy commissioners that work with the program that's involved come into the meeting and say yay or nay to the strategies and countermeasures that we've developed to try and tackle our process problems. So we show them this work plan. That way they're always seeing the same thing. They know what to expect when they come into one of these final Kaizen debriefings. And we're showing, we have a number of strategies. Let's say each work plan has maybe up to 10 strategies. Depends on the project. And this was for our Part 212 air toxics permit reviews. So we have our air quality permits have a subcategory that focuses on toxic emissions. And so this is just that part of it. We started out having very broad lean projects, and it became problematic because we were trying to solve too many problems at once. So we've made a conscious effort to narrow the focus of what we're looking at. So Part 212 actually was just reissued at the state level for our air toxics emissions, and we want to make sure that folks out there in the regulated community are able to see how to implement this without a lot of problems. So we're trying to streamline the implementation of a new regulation through this project that I'm showing here. So we had half a dozen strategies where we were tackling that. Some of it had to do with software, some with guidance, things like that. So we're showing here what is our strategy, who's the lead staff person responsible. We're naming their names. We don't have titles and things like Vermont had, but within the program everybody knows who these folks are. What's the due date of each step? So let's say you're going to prepare a new air guidance. So it goes step by step from drafting it to reviewing it to sharing it with our 9 regional offices, getting the thing revised, sending it out for public review, all the way to when it's final. Each one of those steps has a due date, and it looked to me like Vermont might be set up that way. So we have due dates for each thing. We also have columns here where we're showing, so let's say we've set a cycle time or a quality rate target or another metrics target, KPI if you want to call it that, and we say for each of these strategies how we're going to get to 100% of our target. So let's say we want to reduce our cycle time by 30% as shown here in this block, or well, we want to reduce it by larger than 30%, but so we're saying what each of these strategies can contribute towards that overall goal to make sure we're targeting the right strategies and that those strategies are going to get us to the goal that we identified during the Kaizen. So that's what these 2 target columns are. Then we have a dependency column, which is all about, do we need IT money for this? Does the Office of General Counsel have to get involved? Because that always takes time. Things like that that might hang us up. Now, if we go way back over to the left, we have a color coding system, a little bit different from what was shown on the Gantt chart from Vermont. But this color coding system is actually kind of required by the New York State Lien Office. So if we're green, Okay, the step is done. If it's red, that means it's late, and we're working on the problems in our huddles to get it done. Yellow means it's in progress. Still, it's not due yet, and it's in progress. This is, you know, from a couple weeks ago, this work plan. So this is the type of work plan we have for all of our projects, and it really becomes what everyone's familiar with as far as the teams are concerned, and then everyone that they go back to in our regional offices or in our central office, because not everyone that works on a process can be on the team. The team would be huge. So this is our primary way of communicating. This is what's going on. I mean, we have conference calls and meetings with them, but we use this as our visual tool. This is what's going on, where we're at with it. And we update them weekly. Now let me go down. We have a few things that are required for all of our work plans, and that has to do with the tracking process. So we have certain steps that we do for all teams within DEC that we're calling tracking steps, and it has to do with our 30-minute huddles held on a weekly basis, which are these meetings where you're displaying your work plans, your metrics whiteboard, which I'll get back to you in a minute on, and our Jidoka, or our scoreboard. So I'll go over those in a minute, but this lays out right in the Kaizen, folks. You have to do these things. You have to be tracking it, and you have to report out back to the staff that are involved, back to exec, back to the lean deployment manager, who's me, things like that. All that feeds into what I put into the governor's office SharePoint site. So that tracking is an example of a required component. And another required component of work plans is IT. I don't think there's been a lean yet where we haven't said something has to be fixed with the IT system that's associated with the process. That's part of our broader business plan at the agency. So we have certain steps that are required. IT was decentralized for us about a year ago. It's an experiment, but so we no longer have IT staff right here in the agency. We used to have them in every division. Now there's a big IT department that oversees, and they have clusters of agencies that they work with. So we have to work with them in prioritizing our business plan for IT. So we have required steps in work plan if there's IT. Also, for every project, we have a follow-up survey, usually done maybe 8 months after the project is conducted. So we're going back to people that we touched base with pre-Kaizen, people in the public that have experience, let's say, in the last 2 years with our projects, so we can get feedback from them, try and identify some areas of opportunity for improvement from our regulated community prior to the Kaizen. We go back to those folks, plus a broader audience, to say, did what we do work? So those are like 3 of the key components that are in all of these work plans. The work plans are posted. We have an L drive. So instead of SharePoint at this point, SharePoint is not something that IT supports in our agency, so we want to move to it, but we haven't been able to do it yet. So we have a shared drive that all of the teams have access to, and any of their staff who are working on the project if they want to see these things. And that's where all of these work plans are loaded, all of our metrics whiteboards, which is something I want to show you. So we have, for every project, what we call our metrics whiteboard. It's an Excel sheet that has formulas built into it, because what we found was teams were tracking things differently. Even though they were counting cycle time, supposed to be doing it the same way, when I dug into what they were doing to get to their cycle time number, I saw that it was different. So actually, just in the last couple months, we've upgraded this whiteboard to include formulas so that it has, you know, your project, and then pre-Kaizen targets and current cycle time quality rates, and then there's a second sheet that addresses these other metrics targets that we might have, like conducting more medium-sized facilities, doing federal inspections on a more timely basis, things like that we're tracking through this project. Our other key kind of like tracking system has to do with these Jidokas, which are these, what they also call scoreboards. And unfortunately, I didn't have time to queue up a photograph of one of them, but it's something that's hung in the process working area. So if we're lucky enough to have something that's done only in Albany in the central office, it's posted right there where everybody can see. These are all, let's say, the pesticide registrations, and we get about 1,500 pesticide registration applications a year. So we track how many came in that week, who's responsible for working on it, and there's a red, yellow, green coding there, whether they're keeping up with matching our cycle time targets and things like that for that actual application. And then we also say, because we're huddling around these things that are hung up on our dividers, these large print format things. And we're looking at the work plan, we're looking at this Jidoka, and at the metrics board, all large. Everyone's talking about where they're at. They have an opportunity to say where they're at with their process, whether they're having problems. We try to find solutions together. So I'm sorry I don't have an example to show you of that. Yesterday, we actually had a statewide Jidoka session, and I downloaded them onto something else and didn't bring that in with me. So our primary things, just to step back and overview, we have our governor's office SharePoint. We have our shared L drive that we use here, where we have all of our pre-set up files, similar to Vermont. We have a set of files that every project uses, so there's not like a lot of variation. And we have ground rules on how to maintain those files. Otherwise, they load them up with every draft of everything that's done during the project. And that's what everyone uses as a tool here. We have monthly report outs to our executive where we bring these tools to their attention because they don't regularly look at these things on their own. We try to draw their attention to it. So those are our key ways of reporting. We're working on an internal website. That's been taking some time because the governor's office wanted to have their website first. So they've been working on an overall performance management as a bigger umbrella, beyond lean, performance management in general for all the agencies. We've been working with them for a couple of months now on the content for that. So that's supposed to be posted soon, and there we'll have a jumping off point for something we might be able to go public with. Let me think. I think that probably captures the gist. I mean, there's more to it, but rather than go on and on, I want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to show theirs. These are the key components for New York. Any questions? Doesn't sound like it.
Questions
Okay.
for Mary? Comments? Or Linda and Bob and I don't know about Vince, are you guys on the phone still?
Yep.
Okay.
Still here.
Oh yes, still here. Very impressed. Somewhat aghast at how we're ever going to get there.
Yeah, as you know, I mean now when we do multiple projects, I can't remember, I think the EPA representative was talking about that a couple of minutes ago, but it's really it's a task in and of itself when we have 3 projects going on at once, which is our usual, because we have, I think we have 10 facilitators now, and we try to keep them busy all the time. But tracking these and trying to make sure everybody's doing it right is really a task in and of itself.
Well, it's very good of the facilitators, managers, to let them out and work on these things away from their day jobs.
I'm not saying there aren't any complaints. And in fact, it's something the Vermont person said, there's been a push recently from exec to say, hey, the things with the full-blown Kaizen and all the steps that precede the Kaizen are getting to be too much. We have to focus the Top Gun projects on that and try to do continuous improvement through a modified process. So I'm working on that. Is everybody kind of encountering that? How about Connecticut Art? I don't know if you're on the line. Have you been doing continuous improvement without Kaizens?
They're not on the line. I'm sorry about that. I don't know. I didn't hear
Oh.
from them. I thought they said they were available today, but they did not register. So I don't know where those guys are.
New Hampshire here again. We've got significant pushback on that, and we're looking to do things more like doing something quick around an A3 project description and reporting tool to try and get things done a little quicker. But then again, I think sometimes our managers are expecting magic, and
Yes.
I think we're continuously tasked from an odd position in the org chart to maintain some respect for the tool. The project that was so bloody awful formal did like work, didn't it?
Yes. Yes, I know what you're saying.
But
it's that tension between, doing a full-blown 5-day project and can you do it in 2.5 days and still get something decent done?
I think their mindset is, well, we did lean last year. Why do we have to do more? I think the notion of this ain't never going to stop either hasn't sunk in or scares the heck out of people.
Yeah, it's painful for most people here. One thing that the Lean Office has now asked all of our agencies to do, because they were seeing a drop-off in full projects, especially during the summer, and I'm thinking this is going to help. They've asked each agency, God help us, to do 20 value stream maps. So we're kind of we're going to set that up for the first week of August. I hope I can get like 8 teams together. And use that as a way of identifying whether this needs the full-blown Lean Kaizen, whether it can be something less.
There's a lot to be said for doing current state maps on every process in the house.
Yeah. Have you tried that?
In this agency, it's been mentioned, and people nod their heads and go, oh, yes, what with everyone retiring and so forth, that would be very useful. And that's about as far as that goes. There's another state agency across the river, the Public Utilities Commission, that is actually doing that. And we're all watching with some amazement.
I think,
Yeah,
Bob,
I think
Massachusetts did.
I think Linda Darho's trying to say something. I don't know. Linda, were you trying to say something?
This is Linda. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just telling Bob, I think that's what Massachusetts did, is basically a process map on every process.
I guess part of my difficulty with that is that you really do have to have a sound feel for the metrics. Once you start letting that go, the whole thing becomes has less of a foundation. I don't know. Anyway, that's where we're headed this summer.
Okay.
Do the folks in Vermont want to add anything here? Hello? Alex?
We're still here. We're listening. And we have the same issues that all the other states are having as far as implementation and following up.
Yeah, I mean, I would say one thing, there's something to be said for small projects where you can pretty much implement them, in situ with the event, but to some degree, you're missing out on some really bigger opportunities, and that's where strong implementation really comes through. I think a challenge for us has been educating people, specifically our project champions, on how to manage projects and how to keep them up to date. We give them the tools, but I think we need to do a better job of outreach and education on getting people to actually follow their implementation plans, to use them in SharePoint. And some people run with it and they're great, and other people are not so much. But that's one challenge that we have. Another challenge is, there is definitely something to be said for mapping every single process in our department, especially processes where multiple people are involved. So, it would take an enormous effort as New Hampshire just stated. But I think there's a lot of private sector that they do that by default. And there's a whole suite of software called BPM, Business Process Modeling software, where you not only model every single business process, but then you allow the BPM software to manage that process. So it's specifically, when multiple people are involved in a process. And so that, the documentation actually turns into the deliverable and the, directive for the software to execute. So there's, I think that's, in some people's eyes, it's seen as more value added because it's a crucial part of, making the software work, as opposed to just documenting it and filing it and putting it away and then, what's your incentive to update it when the process changes, and there's those challenges. So.
Well, in terms of the Vermont website, I saw that you had links to external sites. I don't know if you know that NMOA's been posting documents on our website related to lean activities in the region, and these are either case studies that states are, able to share in a public way, or presentations they've done. If I make myself a presenter, I can show you. I'm going to show, Mary, you're no longer the presenter, so in case you don't know that, I'm going to show. So this is our web. So we link to the web pages of other groups that we have links, to other sites that in the region. And again, we can, if you have public sites, we can add them here. But we also have posted resources that states have shared with us on their lean case studies. These are obviously a lot of stuff from New Hampshire, some stuff from Connecticut. So I don't know if you want to link to this from your site in Vermont or any other states, but if you have additional public resources that you think would be useful to share, I think the users of our site are mostly the folks in our working group. But anyway, I just wanted to make you aware of this and see if we could make anything that you're doing, enhance this.
Well, sure, Terry, we'll add your link to our intranet site.
Yeah, at this point we don't have any public portal yet. We're still, I'd like to say we're still developing and refining kind of the model to replicate in other state agencies.
Mm-hmm. There's talk now of it going statewide at some point, and I think we want to get into a position where, like Alex said, we have a replicable model that can just be taken and plopped into another agency and go from there. So we're developing kind of all the foundational materials, background stuff, taking a lot of the things that Fred has given us and adapting them in a way that works for us, and that looks a little bit more like.
And I think we even designed our logo with the intent that other state agencies could just replace the DEC acronym. So we're very much orienting our strategy that way.
Well, if New Hampshire has any more case studies that you've written up, or Linda, EPA has anything else we should link to or post, just send them to me and I'll make sure we add them to this resource. We're trying to create a kind of regional repository.
Yeah, we have two that headquarters wrote up for us, so I'll send those to you, Terry.
Great. Okay. Are they on things you've done in the region, or are they things headquarters doing?
No, they're things we did in the region.
Okay. Is that the Massachusetts project and the New Hampshire project?
No, it's two internal projects. One was on our inventory process, and one was on our purchasing process.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. So are there any other comments, questions, thoughts for the folks in Vermont or Mary at this point? That doesn't sound like it. So let me just ask, I don't know if it's just a Friday in the summer is a problem for folks. I did a doodle poll and didn't get an overwhelming response, but this date and time seemed like the best one for all the people who responded. Did you, I thought these presentations were really helpful. I guess I'm wondering, is there any feedback on this, and should we try to do this kind of webinar again in the future?
I thought they were great. I really learned a lot. So
Yeah, yes, I say carry on.
Okay. So I could try to do more to reach out to Connecticut and see if, would you like to have a regional presentation like this one on their they do use SharePoint as far as I know, right? My understanding.
Yeah, I'm not sure Connecticut's there yet because they came up and we talked with them. So I don't know what they have right now.
Okay. All right. Well, I can find out a little more, try to reach out to them more. But the two webinars that we talked about, I guess, on our last call, one was to have a webinar, maybe Linda, I don't know if it was you or someone from Massachusetts, to talk about your event where you focused on improving record permitting. I don't know if that's sort of baked enough to have a presentation maybe in the fall. And the other one was sometime later in the fall to have New Hampshire and EPA talk about the PPA process you guys did. Are those things that still you think would be still useful to focus on?
the RCRA project is going really well, so I'd be happy to do that. Or we could have Rich Blanchette from Mass DEP talk about it, or both of us. The New Hampshire one, I think it went really well. I'm not that would have to be Stephen Perkins or someone from New Hampshire. I wasn't really involved with that one, so I couldn't present on it.
Yeah, Vince seems to be off the line, so he'd be the person to speak to how that's been working.
Okay. Well, when I've been in touch with him about it, he seemed to want to put off doing any kind of presentation on it till probably later this year, because I think he wanted to do some progress on it, or have it be more fully into implementation or something. Because I do think that one in particular is there's a feeling that it might have some applicability to other states and how they do PPAs, right?
Yes, actually, we're already doing the PPAs, 2-year PPAs with all the states, Terry. That's one of the things that came out of that lean project.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that was what I heard. I can't remember where I heard that, but anyway. So I can follow up with Vince and see, what the timing is on that. Are there any other ideas that you guys have that I should sort of have in the back of my mind for this kind of thing in the future?
This is Justin in Vermont. I wouldn't mind something on the different training programs that each of the states have. I know New Hampshire's got a pretty in-depth training with belts, and we're working on some stuff here, but it'd be nice to just see what resources people have developed and how they're using them.
Yeah, I agree with that one. I think that's a good idea.
Okay. And is this format of just people, going from one person to the other to show some resources? Is this a good format for that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Sure.
It works for you guys? Okay. Works great. Good. Any other suggestions? Okay. Any other feedback on how this went, or suggestions for the future?
I thought it was great, and I appreciate you setting it up. Thanks.
Okay. Well, great. I'm glad you guys could join us today. I know it's the summer. So we'll break a little early, I guess. I will try to figure out if we can post the recording of this webinar, so maybe for folks that weren't able to join us, because I thought, is that if we do that on our website, is that okay with you, or is that a problem given that you were showing some of your internal materials? Is that a problem if it's on a public site?
Oh, no, not at all.
Is that true in Vermont and New York?
Yeah, we're okay with that.
Okay. All right. Okay, great. Well, listen, everybody, if there's nothing else, have a great weekend, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Terry.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.